Good evening, Cambodia, and good morning or afternoon to wherever you are watching today's workshop. My name is G, and I'm your customer journey captain this evening. And I'm the founding principal of the idea, actually. And before we begin, I'd like to thank MSI Cambodia and Ministry of Posts and Telecommunication for making this possible. So this is actually a training series, which is a 5-part program on essential visual and solution design to provide tools and practices to support Cambodia's budding startup and business scene during the COVID pandemic. So firstly, you might be thinking, why are we doing this topic in this particular series? And it's because there is a massive gap between decision makers and then your end users. It's not just a big gap, it's a really, really huge gap. Now, there's already a big gap between your decision makers and your executives. So if you can think about the distance between your CEOs or your owners, general managers, to the customer facing staff, right? And then there's an even bigger gap between the customer and the staff there. So there's a lot of room for things to go wrong in many, many organizations, like miscommunication, poor quality information that goes up the chain, right? So already there's a big gap, and every feedback that they might want to offer, for example, goes through them and through their managers, and things like that get processed, and then it goes out to here. And sometimes when they get poor quality information, they make poor quality decisions. And so from there, this big gap that we find that revolve around decision makers, just through here, we essentially get a lot of frustration from people who end up using your services, whether you're a company or an NGO or a government. And some examples that you can see from all over the world. And actually, it's not just the customer, the end user that feels it. Everyone feels it when decisions are made that don't take into account all the different things that happen in the process, right? Whether it's from FMCGs and their single-use plastic, or the amount of friction in company and government processes all over the world, not just in Cambodia, but call centers, approvals to get something done. And this isn't just B2C, this is B2B as well, from business to business. Anybody who essentially, where there is a relationship where you are serving someone, right? There is friction across all the steps of the process in most organizations, right? So today we're going to be addressing that through the customer journey. So what is the customer journey? It's essentially a process map, and it shows you what your customer experiences with you, right? So you can look at how they interact with your whole organization, your product or service, right? So when they come in, what they experience, if they do this, if they do that, and then what the outcome is. And it helps you see the big picture, because you can see all the steps with, at the same time, all the little details, so you can do things right. Okay, so what we're going to do now is just take a look what some other what other journeys look like around the internet. And journeys are super different. You have journeys that are for employees, journeys for beneficiaries. Many different organizations use them, and it is a diagram, but in actual sense, you start off with creating like a process map. So let's go through and look at some of these now. So this one here, which is super blurry thanks to the internet, is from the US government. Actually, as you can see here, usa.gov, and it's aiming to improve their experience for people or their citizens to more easily get the help that they need when applying for benefits. So they name it Linda's Journey Map. When she identifies that she actually needs to get a benefit, so someone like Linda's friend telling her, hey, you could potentially look at grants or whatever it is. Then they had some pictures and icons, so you get a feeling of like what's going on here, right? Because remember, all stakeholders in your organization should have an understanding of what is actually happening in the journey. So you can see that they've got pictures there. You get a feelings and needs. They write that down, and then down the bottom is potential needs and opportunities for improvement. So what will be happening here is that the government, the people on that team, have identified what the stages are for Linda. And her experience with the government to claiming those grants or benefits. And they've detailed like what happens on all of those stages here. So this is like a traditional looking customer journey map. Over here, this is from a small coffee shop. There's one in BKK, Phnom Penh. You might have heard of it. It's called Starbucks. And this is actually from an old one that they have, but it helped their store managers and interior designers, their marketers, and everyone else who's involved in their company understand what they should or could be doing to improving the customer experience. And the intention here is that everyone has a role. So just exploring, this one looks vastly different to the other one. You have a baseline, and the baseline is sort of they're focusing on the customer's feeling and what is happening here. So this is like a neutral zone. So for them, anything above that is an enriched experience. That's positive stuff. So down the bottom, if we follow their stages: anticipation, entering the store, engaging with the brand, exiting the store, and then reflection. And then down the bottom, you've got things like their office, where they're going. So up here, you've got the aroma. So positive coffee smelling, the ambience is maybe neutral for them. Are the staff polite? Is it convenient? Tasty drinks. These are all positive, and you can sort of see the scale and importance of those things, right? Whereas down below, a poached experience is not a very positive thing. So what are they feeling, right? They're worried. Oh my God, the cafe's loud. Maybe it's cold. Ugh, I don't want to be in there. Oh, there's a line and everyone's standing. It's confined. It's still loud on the way out to work or whatever, and whatnot. So these are the things which each different stakeholder in your organization, they can start to identify what are those things which affect them. So for example, your store manager is looking at, okay, well, what are the things that affect me? Like, oh, loud. I have to make sure that I keep the music at a particular volume, which by the way should be 63 decibels for franchises. I'm making sure that when they enter, that it is warm in there, it's cozy, that they want to stay. Are we making sure that the smell of coffee is good and the toilet bathrooms are shut at all times, for example? And then for the ambience, what could we do to improve that? So the interior design team, the construction team are making sure that they design it according to what the customer wants and where in that stage it is important. Marketers, same thing. Where are we placing ads, for example? They could be adding that here so that when people leave and the exit, they could be saying, oh, there's this new promotion about, I'll come back next week for that, right? So, right. And this is, again, another traditional looking journey map for an online shopping store. This is going to be quite similar to what we're going to work on today. Actually, and you can see here that everyone's got different, they label their stages differently. In terms of customer journey, this one is more like a B2B facing infographic that adds data into it. And what you need to remember is that for the customer journey, it's all data fed. So you start with adding in all the different stages that you have, that your customer currently experiences. And then you have to ask them, what do they feel? How many are doing this at this stage? How many are making a decision at this stage based on what factors, right? And it starts to inform you, the decision maker, and your team about what is currently happening. And then most importantly, what are the opportunities that could be taken from there? So that's used, you'll see these used in most industries, most heavily in the tech industry. And it is important to remember that traditionally, the interpretation of empathy is about putting yourself in someone else's shoes. But for us, the idea is better interpreted or as a reminder that it's about how they feel in their shoes. I'm going to go straight into it now, into the actual workshop material. So that was all the theory. We're going to, if that was really fast, we do go through a lot of that theory together in this mural board here. No, so this one is one that we actually created fairly recently for a brand new company called Go Gym in Cambodia. They're in Tuol Kok, 5 stories of brand new gym, pool, rooftop pool, great process-centric methodology that they have at that gym. So we had to do a few journeys for them because they had different target audiences that we're trying to look at. And for them, they gracefully agreed to let us use it. But of course, we're not going to share with you all of their strategic, their strategy, basically. So you're going to see a lot of that chunk, a lot of big chunks of this customer journey in black because it's super strategy stuff, super secret strategy. But these things at the beginning, they said that we can explore with them. So remember the first step, it was, who are we targeting? So here, persona, we've got a guy called Udom, say 25-year-old junior designer, works at a bank, hasn't been to a gym before, goes for walks, manages diet moderately, but would like to get fit, right? So for the company, this is sort of like a rough sort of persona that of people that they target, shared values, shared behaviors of gym beginners that they would like to target, right? And so this doesn't take so long. You should already kind of know who you're trying to target. There is actually a different webinar that we're doing in a couple of weeks for this with a CEO of a fintech company or e-commerce platform. So follow our page and join that one about targeting customers for that. And the next step to remember, so after you lay it out, was to lay out the stages. So what are the stages for a person going to a gym? So for us, we chose to use the word desire. You can use motivation or you can start elsewhere, but for us, desire is the first beginning. And then, okay, after they're like, hey, I want to go to the gym, the next stage is research. And then you've got the awareness, right? So for us, and then they're considering it. Now they're like, okay, of the next steps are arrival, welcome, I might get a registration. But what always will definitely happen is a deciding factor, right? So from the moment they turn up, stuff along the process for this particular gym, okay, they will go through steps that you would normally do at a gym. You know, you'd probably take a look around, you talk to their staff, you might even do a trial, who knows? But then you decide, all right? And then this is where there is a fork. You don't purchase, you're like, I don't need a subscription, or you're like, hey, I think I will purchase, right? And then you start using a subscription, and always there's thoughts about leaving, of course, right? And then you might actually leave, or you don't leave, right? So all of this is in a journey, and we, in our format, we fork this. So once they get to a usage, I fork it, and it goes to thoughts about leaving, or it just goes from usage to resubscription of their membership, right? So those are the stages. So you have to nail down the stage and look at what you're trying to accomplish from there. And then you've got your action. So remember what I said before, it's what is happening here? What is happening to them? What are they doing? So these are doing words. Write it with a verb. Browsing social media, sees health and wellness content. They're doing things, right? Or doing something's happening to them. So for this gym beginner, right, maybe it's just passive, you know, they're absorbing social media content, and then they feel the urge now, they build up enough energy to actually do something. Or friends and family are like, hey man, you're not very healthy. And, you know, Asian moms might just, you're fat, you know, or whatever it is that they're saying. And hey, maybe you should work out, right? So maybe that is something which sparks the desire. Or here, something else, maybe they had a bad breakup, or maybe they have to get married and they're like, I need to lose weight, fit in my dress, or like great my dress. I don't know, whatever. So many different types of occurrences that can happen here. Now, this action phase, the things that happens to them, this is, if you're not able to sort of fill it out on your own, if it's not top of mind, an empathy map really, really helps. So you would have your persona in the middle, their name, and then like, what do they say? What do they think? What do they do? What happens to them? What do they feel? And then you're kind of going back and forth a little bit from actions and thoughts. A lot of people, when they fill out the actions, they also write down feeling words, and that's okay. That's great. Just add the feeling words in here, right? Because we want to separate it and be specific. Because later, when we're looking at the opportunities, you want to be specific so you can offer a specific solution, right? Only when you're specific do you get to a key insight, or else it's just a general feedback. And then you make a general assumption, and then you make a general decision, and it doesn't actually solve their key problem. So you actually need to be specific. That's why you separate actions and thoughts, and the language you use is incredibly important. Use a verb. They're doing something in the action. Use a feeling emotion word. They're feeling sad, happy, their acceptance, or whatever, right? So use that here. So actions and thoughts, you're kind of doing that at the same time. And then this part here, the feelings, we separated it in terms of just simply positive, negative, and in terms of the flavor of what they're feeling, like happy, sad, hungry, whatever. You type that down. So whoever is reading this customer journey is like, oh, I get what this person is going through right now. I understand them. And then the next part is the actions, your organizational actions. What are you doing here? Right. But normally at the beginning of the desire phase, you are not doing anything because they don't know you and you don't know them. Right. So this is usually blank. Now, pain points. This is where the empathy part really comes in to making your product, service, experience, the world just a better place, right? You are experiencing what they do. There's a term called body storming, and I cover this in a different session, but you do body storming to get this insight. So you get a feel of what the customer is feeling. So if you are selling to, let's say, a really old person, that's your demographic is old people. Maybe you're selling some kind of healthcare, whatever, but you put yourselves in their position. All right. So there was a lady called Patricia Moore. She is like the mother of universal design. Universal design means that you create products that everyone can use, not just right-handed people, right? Or not just fit young white males, but like women, left-handed people can use, anybody can use, right? So the only way to get to that kind of insight is actually just experiencing what they feel from start to finish. In terms, let's look at stuff that people get confused about. i7, iris graphics and things. So for people who are not tech savvy, I have to admit, even for me, this was like a little bit like, but what does that mean? What was the previous generation doing? Like I personally would have liked to see like, this means that you can run Chrome and it won't crash. Great. Like, oh my God, like, thank you for telling me that. That's what I needed to know. Or like this can run Photoshop, the latest Photoshop and even the old Photoshop so that your computer does not slow down. You can run this comfortably, right? Or the true screen one. Like when you could like this, the benefit of this is that so yeah, they say creative work, design, photo, video editing, really, really clear. But in layman terms, maybe for people who don't understand laptops, a section which says, when you are designing something, then you're printing a flyer, it shows you the actual color. So you don't get a blue, which is different from your logo blue. Like, wouldn't that be really useful if they wrote that? So that's the kind of application that you could do. You can go a little bit further by firstly just asking, like, what are they feeling? What are the things that we can do? And remember, the empathy part is remembering. And I focused on that really specifically because it's a remembrance that we are not our customers. We are one person that represents a whole sample group, but we are not them. I am one person. And so what do they feel? Like, even if I put this down, how do they feel using it? And they need to be able to say, like, yeah, like I'm feeling grateful that you understand me, that you get me, you understand my issues. And now I've gone from -20 to like a -50. And I might be the only brand or the only company that's doing it that way because I'm communicating, the brand is communicating with them in a way that actually solves their needs. So you are asking yourself, are these solutions really truly making them feel like they're not overwhelmed anymore? Right. And this is great. Like, okay, we do a demo and let's say, yeah, some of these people saying that's great, but we remembered, hey, there is this section here that people are overwhelmed, not just from our information from our website, but they don't even know if they can trust us. So what else can we do to make it, easy? And then you end up adding in more and more ideas, and then you end up being able to select one which can really truly alleviate the negative feelings and anxieties that your customers are feeling, right? So remember, it's all about feeling. This is what empathy does for you, for your brand and your product when you use it correctly, is that it helps you really address their emotions, their anxieties, their pain points, and their needs. Okay, we do this and we offer a lot of content for free. And our time for free. And I like to think that it's pretty decent content because we hope that it sparks better design products, better design services. And honestly, what I feel is more important is the experience. I wish you a pleasant evening and fun times with your own customer journeys, right? So thank you very much for coming today. If there's any more questions, you can send us a message directly on Facebook or in the comments on Facebook. Thank you. Bye-bye.